Mr. Depp, I'd like to now turn to your relationship with Miss Heard. Can you please tell the jury how you met Miss Heard?
2000, in around 2008, Hunter Thompson and I were going through some of his manuscripts of his books that have been published, and then I found this manuscript in one of his boxes, and it was called the Rum Diary, and I had heard about it, and I knew it was what they called his long-lost novel, in fact, the only novel he ever wrote. And I showed it to him, and Hunter was shocked. Oh my God, that's where it is, you know. And so he said, read me some. So I started reading this to him, and he said, this is a movie, you know. We must produce this together. And, you know, he got all excited about the idea of doing that.
Depp's lawyer asks how he met Amber Heard. Depp takes the long way around, beginning with the origin of the Rum Diary. The film was based on a long-lost manuscript by his friend, the legendary writer Hunter S. Thompson. This origin story grounds the film in personal significance for Depp, setting a serious tone for the project that led him to Heard.
And so we went right into it, and we started to set up meetings to get money, financing to develop the project, and we finally ended up getting the money to develop the project and to make the film.
The development of the film was complicated by tragedy. Hunter S. Thompson died by suicide before the film was made. Depp explains that he pulled director Bruce Robinson out of retirement to ensure his friend's vision was realized. This shows the depth of Depp's dedication to the project, positioning the film as a tribute, not just another role.
Hunter, from his own dilemmas in his life, committed suicide, but having had long talks with him, I knew every angle of the book, but I knew every angle of the film that he wanted, which was going to be a bit different than the book. And Bruce Robinson, who was a great writer-director, directed a film called With Nail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising, was the one director that Hunter and I talked about. And so I went to Bruce, who was a friend of mine, and I ripped him out of retirement because he never wanted to direct another film again. I pulled him out of retirement after 27 years, and he agreed to write the screenplay and direct the film.
The testimony shifts to the casting of the female lead, Chenault. Director Bruce Robinson had auditioned Amber Heard 5 times, but was still unsure of her acting capabilities. Depp notes that both he and Thompson were strongly against stunt casting, just hiring famous people. This highlights the pressure on Heard to win the role based on merit.
Film, and we proceeded. During the auditioning process, Bruce was, before that, Hunter had very specific ideas of what these characters should be. Bruce had been auditioning girls or women for the role of Chenault in the film, and there were this sort of the starlets that were up and coming, or there were some that were well known and things of that nature. But you know, one of the things that Hunter was very against was stunt casting. That is to say, put a bunch of very famous people in a movie and we'll let them go. And then hope for the money in the end. So Bruce had asked me, he said he had been auditioning this one particular actress named Amber Heard. He said that he'd auditioned her 5 times, and
Depp explains that he didn't want to further pressure Heard with more auditions. Instead, he simply wanted to meet her, to see how she behaves and how she reacts, calling reaction and behavior the core of acting. This approach, focusing on non-scripted interaction, is critical in understanding Depp's early assessment of Heard.
was he wasn't sure about her capabilities as an actress with regard to the film and the character and taking direction, and that's
The initial meeting. Depp confirms that the moment he saw her, he immediately thought, that's the Chenault that Hunter wants. He then adds a striking, almost chilling detail. I thought, yeah, she could definitely kill me. This shows he perceived her as possessing the dangerous, mesmerizing quality required for the character. Do you think that initial perception of danger played a part in their later real-life relationship?
sort of thing. So he asked me if I would read with her for the film, and I had already met a number of actresses and things, and so what I said to Mr. Robinson is, I said, Bruce, I don't. If you've auditioned her 5 times, you've seen the best and the worst, I suppose. So me putting her, this girl, in an uncomfortable situation, saying, hey, all right, let's read this, I think it's a far better idea that we just meet so that I can see how she behaves, see how she reacts, because that's really all it is, reaction, behavior.
Depp describes Heard as sweet as pie, pleasant and intelligent. He then talks about trying to mentor her, giving her classic film suggestions like to have and have not. He says he wanted to teach her the importance of stillness in acting, suggesting she had a tendency to take acting a little too much. This implies he felt he had to temper her approach.
And you don't have to push anything else, So they made an appointment. She came to my office. I took one look at her and I thought, yep, that's the Chenault that Hunter wants. That's the one. I thought, yeah, she could definitely kill me. That's what Hunter wants.
Depp recalls one key interaction on set during a nightclub scene, where Heard's character was meant to be drunk and nude. Depp, as a producer, noticed the crowd surging in on her and told her she didn't need to do the nudity. Instead, she could imply it by lifting a red bra out of the crowd. This small detail is presented as an act of chivalry and protection, showing he was mindful of her comfort on set.
And so we spoke, and she was sweet as pie, pleasant, again, intelligent, literate, very good taste. And I felt like what I felt and what I told Bruce was, look, when you put someone in a situation that they're obviously going to feel under pressure, it's not the best way to really know what they're capable of. And I made suggestions such as, and which I ended up making to Ms. Heard. I made suggestions of films that might give her some insight into what we were looking for in terms of the film, which is to say, I gave her films like To Have and Have Not, and things of that nature, because I wanted to. There was something very important that felt she needed to know about stillness, as opposed to, going broad or acting a little too much. So
The key moment of their on-screen connection, a scene where they share a kiss in the shower. Depp pauses, recalling that the moment felt like something that I shouldn't be feeling because he was with Vanessa Paradis and Heard had her wife. This is the moment where the professional boundary began to blur, signaling the beginning of their true-life romantic involvement despite both being in relationships.
I felt like I could be a bit of a traffic cop in that sense, so that, because if we could connect, then it could work, as long as there was truth in her eyes, and as long as there was truth coming out of her dialogue, then it's all in the editing. So I felt that I could help her with that idea of stillness, and so that's when I first met Miss Heard.
How would you describe your interactions with Miss Heard when you worked together on the Rum Diary?
Initially, mostly very.
The lawyer asks when the romantic relationship actually began. Depp's answer is simple and telling. I think there was something in the kiss in the shower. This wraps up the origin story, establishing the 2011 film set as the ground zero for their tumultuous romance.
Very, very few interactions. I remember there was a time, I wasn't working that day, but I was producing, one of the producers of the film, and it was a scene from the book that was a scene where Ms. Heard's character was in a nightclub, and we're amongst the locals, and she's very drunk, and everybody's very drunk, and she ends up dancing with a few of the local, like one of the local guys and stuff, and then the other local guys start to sort of close in on her. In the book and in the screenplay, as it was written, there was a requirement for nudity for the part, and I was on set the day that they were shooting that, and as I was watching the crowd coming in on her, I realized, you know what? Because I would check on Ms. Heard and say, "Are you all right? Are you sure you're okay? Because this is, She was like, "No, I'm fine, fine, fine." But I realized that with the crowd surging in towards her, that we wouldn't have to do the nudity, because if she took her shirt off and she had a red bra on and a skirt, then if she had a red bra in her hand, when the crowd surged in on her, all she had to do was lift the red bra up out of the crowd, and there's no nudity, but it's certainly implied, because then the character disappears for a few days, and she's quite a wreck when she comes back, because bad things have happened to her. So I remember telling Ms. Hurd, hey, you don't have to take your clothes off. You don't have to take your top off. You don't have to, everything's cool. And she was appreciative. But other than that, we didn't really have much interaction until there was a scene where I'm taking a shower, and then she comes into the room and she opens the shower, and we kiss. And that moment was it felt like something. It felt like something that I shouldn't be feeling, because she had her wife, and even though it was a scene, and she had her wife, and I had Vanessa and kiddies, and yeah.
When would you say your romantic relationship with Miss Hurd actually began, if not in that moment?
Well, I think there was something in the kiss in the shower.
Professional overview, relationship origin and context. This segment of Johnny Depp's testimony provided the context for how his relationship with Amber Heard began, focusing specifically on their professional introduction during the 2011 film The Rum Diary. Key points of testimony. Film origin. Depp emphasized that the film was a passion project dedicated to the late Hunter S. Thompson, giving the project personal weight. Casting. Heard was cast after multiple auditions, and Depp felt she fit the character, Chenault, because of her inherent danger. On-set interaction. Depp described advising Heard on stillness in acting, and recounted an incident where he intervened as a producer to remove a nudity requirement in a scene, demonstrating an early protective concern for Heard. Relationship start. Depp pinpointed the shower scene kiss as the moment a romantic connection began, despite both of them being in other long-term relationships at the time. Broader implication. This testimony served to humanize Depp's connection to the film and establish the foundation of his relationship with Heard as an intense, immediate chemistry that developed despite existing personal commitments,